Okay.
And I don't know how you want to do it. If you want to go around or just.
Is this recordable?
Yeah, of course.
So-
Of course.
All right.
Thumb wrestle.
Yeah.
Guess the first question. I
Sure,
guess.
I would be.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, we'll go this way, I guess. It's sort of okay. So, and then one of the big questions that I got is you have a spot available for DP because of Tyler's departure down south. Do you have any game plan for that to use that spot?
Definitely. I mean, I think that with the new rules going, that actually came in midway through this year, which is always fun. Teams have two different kind of paths. You can either have 2 DPs, 4 U22s, and $2 million in discretionary GAM, or you could have 3 DPs and 3 U22s. So we are working through which is going to be the best. I guess the best plan for us in 25 and going forward. But in either of those scenarios, the anticipation would be to add at least 1 DP.
Obviously, considering what we're here for, I think just to follow, kind of run back to the idea of the next step, which is shovels in the ground.
Yeah.
Previously, you told us late September.
Yep.
I'm wondering if there's an update to this.
So late September is a target for getting the land lease from the city, and technically after that happens, you can break ground whenever. And so still pushing for end of September for that. We're still working closely with the city, and and hopefully it will be then or soon thereafter. So we're still pushing at the same time, and then you would do. Then we'd be off the races. So we're already doing pre-construction work. We're doing test piles and things of that nature is already happening on site right now. The actual groundbreaking that you'll attend will be mostly ceremonial, right? But yeah, we'll be off the races as soon as that happens. So hopefully, here in the next few weeks.
A question about the pricing of seating, and this is actually a two-parter. So one about the future stadium. What's the price range for the suites?
Yep.
And what you're selling now. That's one question. And then the next one is for the match against Miami. Season ticket holders were not charged a premium for that seat. That it was just included in the package. The seats that were made available to the general public, those did cost a premium. Those were a higher charge. In the future, are you planning to maintain that with the season ticket holders? That just the package is the package, and the package isn't going to be increased?
Let me start with that one, and I'll come back on the stadium stuff. So technically, how we know, and fans know, that every game is not created equal. That every game is not the exact same value across the city. So what used to be years ago, or when you get use round numbers. If you have 17 games and your ticket is $100, because I don't feel like doing hard math right now.
No.
It's $1,700, and then you just think that every game is $100. What we have done for the last several seasons for our team members is essentially we rack and stack and we do a lot of data analysis around opponent, day of the week, time of the year, et cetera, and we kind of rack and stack all the games in priority order and what we think the highest demand is going to be. And most of this is a function of where we think we're going to be setting the individual game market for each game. Because we're going to set the individual game market different for every game when we go on sale. And we always want to be able to give our members the lowest price. And so, going back to the previous, if it was $100 average across the game, we don't want, there's going to be some games where we might start the individual game market at $60 or $80. And so we don't want city members to be like, wait a second, I paid $100 for that seat, and you guys are charging $60 or $80. Conversely, we know there's also going to be games where we're going to start at $130 or $180 or $250, or in Miami case, maybe even higher. And so what we've done at the beginning of the year, we communicate to members, we're like, here are your 17 games, and here are the prices of every game. And so it would be like, up, down, up, down, up, down. Also venue dependent as well. And so essentially for that, we want to say, hey, the Miami game in your package, we're actually internally, that's the same, the package price didn't change, but internally we might allocate, in the previous example, $375, towards And the game against Cincinnati on October 2nd at Red Bull Arena, we might say it's $40. And so it's a massive swing, because we know we have, especially this year with this game, there's a massive swing in what the value is. And so we try to educate the members on that, so that they see, first and foremost, we want them to understand that we're not trying to undercut them on the games that have, on the lower demand games, and so we're trying to put fair pricing, market pricing out from an individual game standpoint, every game to the best of our ability. So having said that next year we've done this for the last few years, we'll do the same thing, and we'll see what games we think are going to be the highest demand, lowest demand, and we'll communicate, here's kind of your per game allocation, the way we view it as your per game allocation. Also helps with secondary market, give them an idea of okay, this is where the game is at this price. If they need to move, want to post their tickets on the secondary market, now they know where to work off of, kind of almost a starting point. So that's something we've done for the last number of years, something we'll continue to do. But I will say that we do our package pricing well in advance, as I think our fans have grown accustomed to. We do membership pricing we communicate it in April of every year for the following season. So for instance, our pricing for the 2025 season has already been established a while ago, and our members already have been making payments going, on a lot of them on a calendar year basis, so they're making payments on a May to April kind of calendar year, or May to April year to get paid. So those prices are the same. So last year, Messi gets announced in July that he's coming for the following year. We had already had our 24 pricing posted. People were already paying, making their first few payments on their tickets, and I know other teams in the league that were in similar situations, and they raised prices. And we didn't. So we said, hey, the price is the price. We communicated it. You've been paying it. It stayed the same. Now we knew that the value within that overall shifted dramatically. That some of the value, which for us was actually great, because it allowed us to, from a fan growth standpoint, to be able to have lower price points for a lot of games this year. It's essentially we were able to offset that game by going in much lower, much more aggressive, much more fan friendly to help our fan growth initiative. So it's actually been, I think one of the reasons even before Saturday's game that we were up, almost 10% in attendance year over year, is I think that a lot of that was that we've been able to be, we have a growing fan base, we're getting more individual game buyers out to games, and we've been able to price more competitively from day one than maybe we were in previous years. And the Miami game allowed us to do that, because we were able to flex that one way up, which allowed us to flex the other ones down. So we'll see. Going into 25 again, we've already been out with our 25 pricing. There's a small price increase on average, but nothing crazy. We're trying to get the upside in revenue for us this year, and then hopefully next year is on single game buyers, group buyers, and especially those that are trying to cherry pick the best game or games, and if that's what you want to do, then you're going to pay a big premium. If that makes sense. On new pricing, similar strategy in some ways, in the fact that from a premium hospitality standpoint, and why I mentioned in the other room why I wish we had even more of that, is because the more premium seating you have, and that you're able to sell it, obviously you still have to sell it, and it's not a foregone conclusion, it's a process, it's not a foregone conclusion, but the more that you have and the more revenue you generate from that, it allows the club to be more aggressive on the downside or the reasonability side with the rest of the building. And so, we are very sensitive about being able to be, to not pricing fans out, to giving fans, great opportunities. I'll tell you, the quote unquote worst seat in the new stadium is going to be so much better than practically the best seat in any of the stadiums we play in right now. Mm-hmm. And so the experience is going to be so much better. The view, because of some of the things we talked about, and how tight everything is in the stadium and how close it is. people are not going to even understand until like you get into this thing in 27, like how ridiculously great it's going to be. So we want to be able to have fans have those opportunities, and even if it's in the lower price, we want it to be reasonably priced, fairly priced. And the way we're able to do that is by selling through premium inventory and being competitive competitive with other venues in the New York area in terms of kind of our premium hospitality offerings. Now we have to do that from an experience standpoint too. So a lot of what you saw out there, and we showed around kind of the pitchside lounge experience or Skyline and Broadway suite experience, the Tunnel Club, things of that nature, are designed and meant to meet or exceed similar experiences at local stadiums for whether that's MLB, NBA, NHL, NFL, U.S. Open, etc. Like that's we feel like that's the competitive set that we're going after from a premium seating and premium hospitality market, and so we need to have an experience that meets or exceeds those experiences, which we are confident that we have, and that would then allow us to price competitively with those experiences, which we're not pricing our suites of like Madison Square Garden prices their suites, but we are, I think that we are appropriately priced. We have different value proposition. All of our suite product has food and beverage included. We're probably the only building that I'm aware of, definitely in New York and maybe anywhere, where every single seat in the West End has food and beverage included. One of the big things you hear about suite product a lot of times, and one of the probably biggest objections you get from CFOs or companies is they pay this big license fee on the upfront, and then they just get hit with bills every single event because it's like food and beverage, and it's just like they're not budgeting for it, and it's just like kind of the never-ending bill that just keeps on coming. Where we can give them price certainty on that, so that's factored into kind of the expense on the front end, but.
And by beverage, you mean like wine margaritas? Like
Yeah. So depending on the areas, beer and wine in most of the areas, and in a couple of areas also liquor as well, and food, and not just food pregame, but a different spread coming in at halftime, and even stuff postgame, for to go. I mean, we're trying to do things. The food and beverage, and by the way, across the entire stadium is one of our key, kind of what we want to be a key differentiator. We've invested a lot of time, effort, energy into that experience. We have more news coming on that actually maybe in the next, week or two, in terms of some of the food and beverage experience that'll be more geared towards the general public. But that's something that it's not just for the hospitality customers. It's going to be an incredible food and beverage experience for every one of the 25,000 attendees. But as it pertains to here, I guess going back to in a summary, there's the 80-20 rule. If you guys have heard it in business, like 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your, and here it might be more like the 90-10 rule, or what we said 82-18, I guess, because we have 18% of capacity. But that's the idea, is that like, hey, like let's give an amazing hospitality experience, what they can't get at other, and this is going to be mostly corporate buyers, for the most part over there. They can't get at other places, that they haven't seen in other places, and that they'll be willing to pay for. And the better that we can do there, the more competitive and the more balanced our pricing can be throughout the rest of the other 82% of the building.
Thank you.
We just saw the subway tiles for the premium seating if they purchase them. For founding members, has it been laid out the plan for those bricks?
Yeah, I mean, I won't say fully been laid out, but we've been engaging with supporters groups on this, and we've had 2 or 3 sessions, I think, so far. Feedback. We have identified the place where we are going to kind of commemorate the founding members. And our next step is kind of designs on what that's going to look like. So we still, obviously, good news, we still have 2.5 years until this thing opens up, so we have runway to make sure that we do these things right. And they're going to be involved in kind of every step of the way. But that's where we are. We've identified a spot. We have consensus on kind of the application on how we're going to do it. And then, obviously, I hope our founding members stay with us forever. But it's, this is going to be, essentially we'll be turning over. We'll kind of be rebranding as the founding members will be club founding members. Those have been with us from the beginning. But once they get through the 26th season, I won't say their work here is done, but they'll be forever commemorated on at the stadium. And then our hope is that and plan is to roll out opportunities for other fans to become stadium founding members, and but more, and then we'll have another club, I guess, that will be the stadium founding member group. More to come on that. We're working through baking out what that's going to be, but if you were a club founding member through 26, there's no requirements after that. You will forever be known as a club founding member, forever and ever, 100 years down the road, and you will always be memorialized at the stadium.
Communication has always been an opportunity for the club. You had two recent announcements that challenged how the team communicated. The badge was one of them, and then the Red Bull Arena games. Obviously, with the Red Bull Arena games, I think you probably waited as long as you could to see where the Mets were going to be.
Damn Grimace.
How are you guys tracking that as far as getting the feedback? I know with Leagues Cup, you had said that the number of people that opted out wasn't that high, but the social media response to the Red Bull games was pretty intense, and then the badge as well. I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, a couple of things. One is, I think, we listen to, and everything that we see from fans. We do social listening exercises, and when these things come out, we hear the feedback, we read the feedback. It's important to get feedback. We care about what our fans think. It's also important for people to understand that we have a pretty significant fan base. I mean, I think that there's definitely a vocal minority on social, and so when people say, social can be really brutal. Part of it is like let's count out and be like, how many people are we really talking about? Are we talking about, dozens or hundreds? Usually it's dozens, if that. And we have 1,800 active club founding member accounts. We have 5,600 active city member accounts. We have 400,000 engaged fans, and by engaged fans I mean people that attend a game, that open and read our emails. We check that participate and comment, not just like, but comment on things on social media. Not always bad. We actually have people comment good things, sometimes as well, which I appreciate personally. And so we're forming this. So in the grand scheme of things, there's we have, and you guys have heard me say it before, and that is something I love and appreciate about soccer fans, about New York City FC fans, is the passion there, and especially from probably a very core group of club founding members, is a very high level of passion, and I'm here for it, and I'll listen to everything they have to say. I received, after the badge thing, I probably received 15 to 20 emails. I read every word of every one of them. I responded to every person, and some of them didn't respond to my response. Many of them did respond to my response. Most of them then were favorable and thankful. One or two weren't, but that's fine. That's everyone's prerogative. It's like I don't take it personally. I think that I from our standpoint, we want to hear and understand what the feedback is. By the way, we got a lot of positive feedback as well, and so it's important to have a dialogue. I've seen places that I've seen sports teams. I've been a part of sports teams where you could do anything, and it's just crickets. It's kind of like apathy. No one really cares. That's terrible, that's a terrible situation to be in. So like if we do anything and like no one says anything, that's when I'll start worrying. So I appreciate everybody who took. And by the way, people took the time to write, in some cases, some very lengthy emails. With some pretty creative wording in some of them, and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And so, can we communicate better and differently? Yeah, of course. There's always room to improve on things like that. The badge thing, I think. We have to look through different lenses when we are thinking about the direction of the club, and with the overarching one being our charge as a club and as kind of stewards of the club. And I know it's not just me; it's everyone in the club. Our charge is to grow this thing into a massive club. I mean, like everyone, you guys wouldn't be in this room right now if you didn't believe that our sport was on this kind of trajectory. And I'm doing an upward, very high upward trajectory sign with my hand right now. We wouldn't all be here if we didn't all believe that that's the direction this thing is going. And we at the club need to be able to best position ourselves to capture that, and especially in a market like New York. And so when we make decisions about a club, it's usually first and foremost about, is this going to help us grow the club? Are we going to be are we and then we have to look at through the lens of, well, we have very committed, very dedicated, very passionate group of fans, and then it's kind of almost like the one percenters and they're like the 1%ers of the 1% almost, are the most vocal of that group, and so we care about that. We want to take that feedback. We care about what our less passionate city members also think. We care about what our general fans are going to think, and we also are trying to kind of be ahead of the curve. I don't want to say predict the future, but we're out there trying to figure out how are we going to best position ourselves to grow fans. The lazy thing would be to do is hey, we're building a stadium. We don't have to do anything. Hey guys, we got a new stadium. Obviously you want to support us now. That's lazy and presumptuous. I think we have to earn. We feel like we have to earn fans. We have to go out there and make it happen. And so we have to be sensitive to. We have to do things with the level of sensitivity, to our most hardcore fans, and also a level of kind of honoring and trying to honoring the past of what we're doing. And this is only year 10, year 20 and year 40. What are you going to be looking at doing it with also an eye towards the future. So it's challenging because I think that certain subsets of fans only look through decisions that are made through one lens, and we have to look at things through multiple lenses. And we know that when we do that, we're not going to make everyone happy, because if it's not fully seen by one lens, it's not. They're not going to be happy with that. So it's tricky, and I'm sensitive to that. Actually, what you do, and then the way you communicate it, and actually the process that you go through on the front end are probably three different things, and we could probably be better at all three of them, because it's always an ongoing challenge with that. I do feel, even though I think some of these fans disagree, that we did a pretty exhaustive piece of work around this, including multiple rounds of focus groups and feedback, not just with supporters group board members, but with founding members, non-founding members, non-fans, potential future fans, people that gonna raise their hand as soccer fans, but not yet New York City FC fans, which that's a group that is really important to the club, because if you're a soccer fan in New York City and you're not yet supporting New York City FC, to me, part of my job and a lot of people's jobs in the club is how do we get them to? They're soccer fans. They live in New York. We're the soccer team of the city, And so all these things are kind of bedded out, taken into consideration. I think we had unexpectedly, and we had nothing to do with it, and we were very upset when it happened. There was a leak of a badge that ended up not being, that wasn't even an actual badge. It wasn't even one that was considered, but we had like, I can't remember, 140 options, like they were looking through. And that came out. I can't remember exactly when it is, though. I have a note in my pocket that tells me exactly when it is, but you guys don't need me to pull that. And when that happened, we got a lot of feedback. There like, and again, we were upset, and then we're kind of like, oh, actually, let's see what people have to say about this, And at that point in time, again, it was pretty split, and there was actually a pretty significant amount of positivity around it. And I was asked at that time, and I said, hey, like we rolled out new branding elements at the beginning of the season. And so I was like, hey, we've been going through a whole branding exercise, and I answered, I think, when I was on your podcast about like, hey, like we're looking at these things as well, and at that point we had not made any final decision. We were like down, and we had meetings with Third Rail after that, and others, on the process, and said that kind of this is the direction we're going. We're kind of maybe between one or two, and the last meeting that I was at on the subject with supporters group, I think there was 10 people in the meeting, and 9 of them were in favor of it, and 1 of them wasn't. And so, I felt like we had done a good amount of work. The timing of doing it, when we did it, was because we were opening this thing, and essentially the new brand to go with the new stadium. We couldn't open this, have people come through and be like, wait a second, what's that? I also didn't want to open the new world with the old world, and so we were up against time frame. We're not using, I don't know if anyone's wrong, we haven't changed over to the new brand on our social handles. We'll do that January 1st. So this was more of a kind of like a preview. Let's get it out here. We did a small capsule collection of gear that was well received and sold through, and we feel good about that. But we're not like fully moving until January. But that was the timing. So we got to the point where like we have to announce this, and because we were opening this place, and we need to start selling some sweets, and so that's the reason behind that, and where it was, and again, some people take umbrage with it, and I appreciate their opinions. And that covers, I think, most of what I want to say on the subject.
I wanted to ask about the new member of the ownership group. So Marcelo Correa has a stake now in the team and in the stadium, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So what made this sort of the right time for that to happen, for him to join, and like why I guess now is the time that the Yankees are reducing their stake? Because you also said you thought the Yankees would always hold on to a piece of the team. So
so the Yankees aren't technically good question. Yeah, well, first of all, thrilled that Marcelo is joining the club. He's been in the family, in the City Football Group, family for a number of years. So he's a part owner of Girona, our team in La Liga. He also owns Club Bolivar. He's Bolivian, and so that's the biggest club in Bolivia. He's owned that team for quite some time. He brought them into the mix as a City Football Group partner club a few years back. So, and he's also very, he's not new to the MLS. As a co-founder of Inter Miami. So he's very passionate. He loves the sport, loves the league. Very bullish on the league. Loves New York City. Has made New York City his permanent residence. And though he still travels a lot, but he's here full time, and he loves the relationships with City Football Group. So it was really a matter of him coming in and say, hey, like, I want to be a part of this. I'm going to be living in New York. I love the sport. I love where we're going. I couldn't be more bullish on this. Like, how can I get involved in New York City FC? So that's really how it happened. It wasn't like we went out and hired an investment bank and said, hey, go find us a good partner for 10% of the company, which we had zero plans to do. To comment on the Yankees, so the Yankees stake isn't technically reduced. So like what happened was, they had 20% of the club and 0% of the stadium. Depending on what publications you read, and I won't comment on where those are, but roughly some valuations of the team and some valuation and some projections of how much the stadium is going to cost are pretty close to the same amount. And so, using rough math, it was instead of owning 20% of half of the thing, you own 10% of the whole thing. And so it's not a dilution from that standpoint. We kind of recapped and and brought in created a holding company over the top. So we went from being one company, New York City FC, to we have a company, New York City FC. We have a company that's a stadium company, and then we have a holding company that's over the top of those two companies. And so the Yankees and Marcel are both approximately 10% of those, and then City Football Group is approximately 80%.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Wait, sorry. So it's 10% for the holding company for Marcel, and then 10% on the basically the operating company.
Yeah, there's so essentially both the team company and the stadium company roll into the holding company.
Okay.
And so in the holding company structure is where the cap table lies, and it's roughly 80-10-10. Yeah.
Well, you say they're not getting rid of half their share because technically it's not reducing because they're getting 10%, but their share of the whole thing is reducing.
Well, they had no share of the stadium, so it's not reduced. So again, like we could have just gone through life and not created a holding company and said we have a team company, a stadium company, and the Yankees could have owned 20% of this and 0% of that.
Sure, I get it.
The challenge there's a lot of challenges with doing that, including there's where do you classify certain revenues, certain expenses, and if you don't have alignment between the two groups, it's suboptimal. So like let's say like something like stadium naming rights revenue, which is significant. Does 100% of that go towards the stadium? Does it does 80% of it go towards the stadium? It's the stadium asset, but if there was no New York City FC playing in the stadium, how much would the stadium naming rights be worth? So there's all these kind of things where it's much cleaner and it's much better if you have like full alignment and you have this kind of structure. So almost I don't know of any professional sports organization that has a stadium arena and that is incorporated a company that hasn't kind of done some kind of holding company structure and aligned those things. So
it's smarter.
Theoretically, I guess you could have said this question, if the Yankees wanted to invest 20% in the stadium, also, then there could have been 20% owners, but like essentially 20, because the valuations were where they were. 20% of what was a team company versus 10% of what is this holding company are equivalent stakes.
Equivalent in value.
Yeah.
But when we talk about like decision making, obviously, the City Football Group had a majority. Not just 80%.
Yeah, same. Yankees have 2 board seats. Marcelo has 2 board seats, and CFG has the rest. So it's similar structure to what we had previously, which is the team company.
Don Garber had said in the press release when you announced Marcelo that he was going to be sitting on the board of governors, if I read that right. What are going to be the level of, is he going to be, he doesn't seem to be like a silent partner per se, just an investor. What's going to be his role within the team and going forward?
No, I mean, I think he has a vast amount of experience and quite frankly, business connections and things of that nature that, maybe I didn't directly answer the one before, like, why now for him? I mean, like, why not now? Like, I don't think there's a more perfect time for someone to get involved with this club when you're, with where the sport's going, where this market's going, with the stadium. Like, I mean, to me, like that, if he was able to get in, like, perfect time for him to get in. And then, for us, going forward, and like, what does that mean for him? Like, he's going to want to make this thing successful, right? And so, and he's ambitious. He's wired to be ambitious. He's wired to win. DP question, things like that. I mean, like, he wants to win on the pitch. He wants to win on the business. He wants to win off the pitch. So I anticipate that he's going to be a great resource for us. He brought guests into the game on Saturday, and he was already trying to sell some suites for the new stadium, like right in front of me. So I was like, And I was like, all right, we'll give you a call on Monday, type thing. So, I think he's going to be a great resource for us. I think he obviously has a lot of other business interests, so it remains to be seen. It's so new, remains to be seen. How it's all going to work together. But I've been in, I'm in pretty regular communication with them, and I would anticipate that we would be going forward. And because we want the same thing, we want to grow this thing to be the best it can be, and grow the business to be huge, and have a successful stadium opening, and win some more trophies. And so it's he's going to be a great addition for us for sure.
Can I follow up?
Yeah.
Is there any chance that because of his involvement and his passion, as you described it, that it changes the way New York City focuses on how much money they're going to be spending on players and on things like that, and maybe getting a different sort of player?
I don't know, because again, I think it's been a week or whatever, so I'm like, you gotta give us some more time to see how it goes. But I'm making some assumptions based on what I know about him, the successes he's had in everywhere he's been, pretty much, in his career, and his ambition that he wants to win, and so we're gonna, I would anticipate he's going to be pushing us from the business side, pushing us from the sporting side to how can we be better.
Can you keep him away from crypto trading companies?
NFTs?
He's had a lot of success, but
I'm not going to comment on that one.
On that a little bit, my question in this case is league-wide specifically. Obviously Lionel Messi has had a massive impact on the league and drawing attention worldwide. At some point, though, Lionel Messi will leave the league as a player. He may stay on as an owner. Obviously, there's a lot of things like that. Is there concern, and is there any kind of projection to what the league will be like post Messi on the pitch?
I mean, I think the league is seeing the impact. Obviously, I know the league has seen everyone in the league, everyone in all the clubs. They see the impact, and they see where it goes. And the last handful of board of governors meetings that I've attended, that's topic. It's like, all right, how do we keep going? It's like everyone should have a Messi. It's like, well, okay, there's only one Messi, but what does that mean outside of that? What does that mean for investment models for the league going forward? And I think that there's also there's this inflection point for the league, for the sport in 26, and I think that the MLS is not just of the mindset of, all right, we're going to start the 2026 season in February like we always do, and then we'll take a break for the World Cup, and then we'll resume the season after the World Cup, and we'll just keep on having the 26 season as is, and just keep on going on. I think that there's an urgency around figuring out what should we be doing differently, how should we be repositioning the league, the clubs, the player investment model, competition format. Everything is kind of on the table in terms of what should this look like, because no one wants to just be like, let's start a season, have a break for a World Cup, and finish the season. I think we got to have something different, something more exciting, something that can capitalize immediately, not wait until the following year. Though, we're gonna wait. The following year we'll have the stadium opening up, which will be helpful for us, obviously, from a timing standpoint, but from a league standpoint, what does that mean? And so, I would anticipate that between now and the World Cup, there would be the rules that are in place now, the league that we have now won't be exactly the same coming out of 26, coming out of 26 or going into 27. To me, I can't see it honestly. There's enough momentum, enough focus on it that it's we have to take advantage of it as a league. I don't know what that means exactly yet. There's a lot of things under consideration, but it's going to be different. It's going to be different, and because there's an appetite broadly across all the ownership. There's no pushback. There's no group of owners no, guys, let's just keep everything the way it is. Let's not do more. Owners are it's just about it. Owners let's push all the chips in the middle of the table, like woke up, and it's just a matter of like what does that mean? What does that look like? And that's what I think the league and the owners are working on and trying to figure out. But to me, it's going to be exciting for the league, and I don't know. Again, I don't know exactly what that's going to mean for us, but I think it's going to be positive for sure.
Guys, you've probably only got 10 more minutes, so I don't know how you want to.
So, 2 suites sold out of, it looked like there were 8, 6, I'm trying to remember.
Eight pitchside lounges. So yeah, we started Thursday was the first official day, and by
Okay.
Friday we sold 2 of the 8. Yeah,
So does that put you on track, or was that like, high fives and you're doing well?
I was surprised. I would say I was surprised. My our head of sales, who you met, I was in meetings like all day on Friday, and then I finally got around. I had all these text messages. I had a text from him that was just a photo of the one tile,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had a second picture. It was a photo of 2 tiles with no words on it. It was just like kind of written. I was like, whoa, is that what I think it is? So I think that when we initially set, we initially set a calendar for the first phase, and suites are usually one of the longest, if not the longest phase of if you have like the kind of runway that we have over 2.5 years, just because they're the most significant investment, of because both in number of seats and in dollars. So it's not just selling 2 seats are easier to sell than 4. 4 seats are easier to sell than 8 seats are easier to sell than 12, and so on and so forth. And so you have a smaller universe of potential buyers for products like this. So I anticipate this is going to be a 6 to 9 month process. Selling 2 on day 2 it makes me much optimistic. I think that maybe that will be faster. But we still have a lot of ways to go. We still have so we have 23, 32. We have 28 suites to sell in between the Broadway and the Skyline level. So if you think 2 of 8 is great, but it's also in some ways I can think of it's 2 of 36. So so we have a ways to go.
Can you share who bought the suites?
Yeah, I won't share names, but I would say they are both current. So right now we're the first 30 days that we're essentially doing current partners, opportunities for current partners and current members. If people raise hands, so we start with founding members who go out. Is this a product you're interested in? Potentially understanding that it's an 8-seat or 12-seat product. Is this something you're interested in? If you are, you're the founding members. You're the first ones coming down. City members, you're the second ones coming down based on your tenure, and so on and so forth. Corporate partners, etc. And so we're in that. But we anticipate that the vast majority of suite buyers are going to be new customers. But our first 2 are current customers, and so we're pretty excited about that.
Can you just talk about the philosophy? Because you mentioned the more suites you sell, the more premium you have, the lower you can keep the other seats. Making sure that the people that you sell to are, and you said the 2 that you've already sold are for current customers, but making sure that they're going to be engaged, so you're not going to have a situation where, hey, the inventory is sold, but the actual attendance is extremely low.
Yeah, that's why in most of these buildings and these kind of products, it's corporate, because it's not relying on 8 people or 12 people to come to 20, 22, 24 matches a year. Whatever we might have in the future with all the competitions and like that. Or if they get disenfranchised or have a tough start, like getting people to come to games because of they're coming from passion. It's when, from a corporate standpoint, you have employees, you have new business development, you have client relations, you have like all these ways to distribute tickets, and so it's people that are not necessarily coming to game after game after game after game, and they're going to want to get their money's worth, especially when they can get an amazing experience, food, beverage, drinks, everything all inclusive wrapped into one. So that's a great target audience for us, because we think that usage will be high, and satisfaction will be high, and the propensity to spend from that kind of target audience is high.
Is the suite are the suites sold for all events in the stadium or just New York City FC games?
They are, good question. They are sold. How it works and how all remains to be seen how we package kind of general memberships. But what we're doing for all of the hospitality seating, not just the suites, but all hospitality seating, is that essentially it's a membership fee. And that includes all MLS regular season games and all cup competitions of any kind, new, current, future, or whatever, up until a quarterfinal. So essentially, if we, Leagues Cup, if we hosted 2 round robin games at home, that's included in your package. Then we host a round of 32 game, also included. Host a round of 16 game, also included. Get to the quarterfinal and host. Then that's incremental. That's an incremental cost. Champions League, first round included, second round included. You get to a quarterfinal, now you pay incremental. And so in some years that might mean 18 games, and some years it can be 20, and some years it can be 22, some years it can be 24, it can be 26, like whatever that number ends up being, is all included. And then playoffs, MLS Cup playoffs, and then quarter, semis, and finals of any cup competition would be incremental.
But it doesn't include, let's say, if you have a women's team, those games.
Yeah,
If Taylor
yeah.
Swift has a concert here, that's not included either.
All on top, right? Yeah.
So that's just all extra.
First right of refusal, as long as we as a building have the right to sell those. So there'd be, there's some events where we may not have the right to sell, someone's suite, or we may have to get a certain amount of inventory to promoters or things of that nature. But as long as we have the ability to sell their suite, they have first right on it for all those other events.
One more, guys, if that's okay.
I wanted to ask, so you guys drew 45,000 Saturday for the game. You've kind of said it's unlikely that you'd be able to expand capacity once this is built. Would you really, realistically, relocate a home game if there was some event like the sort of Messi coming, to a bigger venue in the future? If there was a future Messi type event like that?
Yeah.
And also around MLS, a lot of stadiums that got built, teams are going back and saying they need to make renovations or maybe expand. What about this sort of design makes it sort of something that can last as maybe the sport grows and as it becomes sort of like a ticket wait list situation where people really want to go? How do you kind of make sure that all is workable?
Well, I hope that's going to be the case starting in 27 even, but I think it's a great question, and I don't know the answer yet to what we would do faced with that situation. It was interesting when Miami got Messi. I was shocked that they didn't go to the Dolphins and just say, "I'm going to play over home games there." Shocked. I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. And they said, "Hey, we just built this, built this thing. Obviously it's a temporary facility, and we want to reward, people there, et cetera, et cetera." Obviously, there's some different economics of revenue sharing and other things with and who knows what kind of deal the Dolphins would have asked for, or if they even talked. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to any of that. But there was something to be said about for them about, hey, this is our venue and we want to plan it. I don't know what we would do. I think in early years, we've been waiting for our home for so long. It's stay in our home. To go to Met, to go be okay, big game. Let's go to MetLife, and and play and go to New Jersey. I got enough shit. In the last few years, taking games to New Jersey. It's bleep. It's right. Taking games to New Jersey. You think I'm gonna be okay, let's go to MetLife. Once we have our new stadium, so I don't see it. I'm wondering why. That's kind of a never say never type situation. But I don't see it. I don't see it.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.